The pain started during appetizers. I reached into my purse discreetly, fingers searching for the small orange bottle I kept in the side pocket. My niece Emma, 11 years old with her mother's sharp eyes, noticed immediately. "What's that?" she asked loudly, cutting through the dinner conversation. "Just medication, sweetie. Nothing to worry about." I tried to keep my voice steady, but the familiar ache was spreading through my joints, the kind that made every movement feel like grinding glass. My fingers had started swelling again this week, the inflammation making it difficult to grip utensils properly. I'd been managing it well with my prescribed regimen, but skipping a dose meant hours of increasing discomfort. "Mom says you're always taking pills," Emma announced to the entire table, her voice carrying across the dining room. "She says you're being dramatic about everything." My sister Jennifer looked up from her salmon, not even bothering to correct her daughter. Instead, she smirked, that particular expression I'd come to recognize over the past 2 years. Ever since my diagnosis, she treated my illness like a personal insult. "Well, Emma's not wrong. How many bottles do you carry around now? 4? 5? I lose track." "I have rheumatoid arthritis, Jen. You know this." I kept my tone neutral, swallowing the medication dry because asking for water would only draw more attention. "Right. The mysterious illness that showed up conveniently after you lost your job." Jennifer's voice dripped with skepticism. "Funny how you're always in pain, but never too sick to show up for free babysitting." Her husband Mark laughed, cutting into his steak. "Got to admit, the timing was pretty convenient. Unemployment runs out, and suddenly you've got a disability." Their son Tyler, 13 and already mimicking his parents' cruelty, grabbed my purse before I could react. "Let's see how many pills the faker needs." "Tyler, please give that back." I reached for it, but the movement sent sharp pain shooting up my arm. I gasped and pulled back. "See? So dramatic." Jennifer rolled her eyes. "Tyler, show everyone what she's got in there." This was my sister, the woman who used to braid my hair before school. Who called me first when she got engaged. Who I'd driven 4 hours to reach when she went into labor with Emma because Mark was out of town. Now she sat there, wine glass in hand, encouraging her children to humiliate me. Tyler dumped my purse onto the table. 3 prescription bottles rolled across the white tablecloth, along with my wallet, keys, and a small medical alert card I'd started carrying. "Ooh, what's this?" Emma snatched the card before I could reach it. Her face lit up as she read it aloud. "Emergency contact information, medical conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia." Wow, Aunt Lisa, have you really committed to the bit? Those are real conditions that require real treatment. My voice came out quieter than I intended. The pain was getting worse, spreading through my spine now. I needed to take my evening dose soon, or I'd be useless tomorrow. "You know what I think?" Jennifer leaned back in her chair, addressing her family like I wasn't even there. "I think she's addicted. All these pills, all this pain. She's probably doctor shopping, getting multiple prescriptions." "That's not." I started, but Tyler cut me off. "Mom, are these the drugs everyone talks about at school? The ones people get addicted to?" "Could be," Jennifer said thoughtfully, examining one of my bottles. "Lisa, are you taking opioids?" "That's a muscle relaxer. This one's for inflammation, that one's for..." Sure, that's what they all say." Mark reached across and grabbed the 3rd bottle. "Maybe we should flush these, for your own good. Intervention style." My heart started pounding. "Please don't. I need those. I have a shift tomorrow and..." "A shift?" Jennifer's eyebrows shot up. "You told Mom you couldn't work. That you were too disabled." I said I couldn't work retail anymore. Standing for 8 hours destroyed my joints. I found something else, something that fits better. "Doing what? Professional pill popper?" Tyler thought this was hilarious. Emma had already grabbed 2 bottles and was heading toward the bathroom. "Let's throw them out. If she's really sick, she can just get more from a real doctor. This will prove she's faking." I stood up too quickly. The room tilted, and I had to grab the table for support. The sudden movement sent sharp pains shooting through my knees and hips. "Emma, please. Those took weeks to get properly balanced. You don't understand. Each medication addresses different symptoms. Without them, I can't function. I can't work." "Stop faking." Tyler grabbed the 3rd bottle and followed his sister, genuinely believing he was doing something righteous. "You're not even sick. You're just lazy and want attention." I looked at Jennifer, pleading silently for her to intervene. We were sisters. We shared a childhood, parents, memories. She'd seen me in the hospital last year during my worst flare-up. She visited once, complained about the parking, and left after 20 minutes. She took another sip of wine. Let them go, Lisa. Maybe cold turkey is what you need. The sound of toilets flushing came from down the hall, once, twice, 3 times. Months of careful medication management flushed away by children who thought chronic illness was pretend. I stood there, watching my sister smile. I think I should go. My voice sounded distant, disconnected. Probably for the best, Mark agreed. Before you start looking for more pills in our medicine cabinet. I gathered my empty purse, my keys, my shredded dignity. Emma and Tyler returned, high-fiving each other like they'd accomplished something heroic. Intervention complete, Emma announced proudly. Remember this next time you want to fake sick to get attention, Tyler added. Jennifer walked me to the door, and for a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, "You know, this tough love thing. It's because we care. You need to stop relying on chemicals and just push through. Mind over matter." I nodded slowly. Mind over matter, right. And Lisa? Maybe think about getting a real job. Mom and Dad are worried about you. We all are. I have a job, Jen. Sure you do. She closed the door before I could finish speaking. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, waiting for my hands to stop shaking enough to drive. The pain was manageable now, but it would get worse. By midnight, I'd be in serious trouble without my medication. I'd have to call my doctor in the morning, explain what happened, and hope she could rush new prescriptions. The paramedic uniform hanging in my back seat caught my eye. My shift started at 6 a.m., 12 hours on the ambulance, responding to emergency calls, lifting patients, performing CPR when needed. I'd found work that mattered, even if it meant pushing through pain that would have broken most people. I'd just never told Jennifer, why bother? She'd already decided I was unemployed and useless. I drove home carefully, every bump in the road sending jolts through my inflamed joints. At home, I took a hot bath, used my heating pad, and did the gentle stretches my physical therapist recommended. It wasn't enough, but it would have to be. My phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Emma's number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello, Aunt Lisa?" Her voice was high, panicked, completely different from the smug child who'd flushed my medication hours earlier. "Aunt Lisa, please, you have to help. Something's really wrong." "What's wrong?" "It's Mom. She collapsed in the kitchen. She can't breathe right. Her face is all red and swollen. She's on the floor, and Dad's freaking out. He's yelling, and Tyler called 911, but they said it's a 30-minute wait because there's some big accident on the highway. All the ambulances are there, and they can't send anyone yet and—" "Emma, slow down. Take a breath. Is your mom conscious?" "Kind of. She's making weird noises, like wheezing. Her lips look blue. Dad doesn't know what to do. He keeps shaking her. Aunt Lisa, I'm really scared. I think she might die." 30-minute wait. I knew about the highway accident. Multiple vehicles, all available units responding. Jennifer lived 15 minutes from the nearest hospital, 25 from the second nearest. In a city with stretched emergency services, sometimes people had to wait. "Emma, is your dad there?" "He's trying to help, but he doesn't know what to do. He keeps yelling at 911. "Please, Aunt Lisa, can you come? You're only 10 minutes away." 10 minutes away, in my car. With my paramedic certification and years of emergency response experience. With the training to assess, stabilize, and transport if necessary. I could be there in 8 minutes if I pushed it. "Please," Emma whispered. "I know we were mean. I know I shouldn't have. With your pills. I'm sorry. Please don't let my mom die because I was stupid." The pain in my joints was screaming now. No medication. No relief coming until tomorrow at the earliest. Driving would hurt. Running into their house would hurt. Performing emergency care would damage my already inflamed joints, set back my treatment by weeks. "Aunt Lisa?" I thought about Jennifer's face as she watched her children destroy my medication. The smile, the wine glass. Maybe cold turkey is what you need. I thought about Emma reading my medical alert card like it was a joke. Tyler's high five. Mark's comment about me raiding their medicine cabinet. Intervention complete. "Aunt Lisa, please. She's my mom." And there it was, the desperate plea of a child who'd learned a hard lesson about consequences. About how casual cruelty has a price. About how the people you dismiss might be the ones you need most. "Emma, I need you to listen very carefully." My voice came out steady, professional, the voice I used on calls. "I can't help you. Silence. What? I'm not a medical professional, remember? I'm unemployed. I'm faking. I'm a pill addict looking for attention. Each word landed like a stone. Your mother made that very clear. But the ambulance is coming. They'll help your mom. 30 minutes isn't that long. She might die in 30 minutes. Then I guess you should hope she can push through. Mind over matter, right? That's what your mother told me. No chemicals, no help, just willpower. Aunt Lisa, please. Emma was crying now, real tears, the kind that came from understanding that actions have consequences. I'm sorry, we're all sorry, we were wrong. Please. My finger hovered over the end call button. You know what I do for a living, Emma? I'm a paramedic. I save lives every single day. I respond to emergency calls. I'm the person who shows up when people are having the worst day of their life. I perform CPR, I stop bleeding, I stabilize spines, I deliver babies in the back of ambulances. I paused, letting each word sink in. I'm the person who would normally be sent to your house right now. I work on the ambulance that covers your area, but I'm not working tonight. I'm home, in pain, without my medication because your family destroyed it. Oh God, her voice broke completely. Dad, Aunt Lisa's a paramedic. Call her ambulance company, tell them to send her. I could hear Mark in the background, his voice high with panic. What? Lisa? She works at a grocery store. No, she's a paramedic. She could help, but she's not coming because we. Emma dissolved into sobs. I hung up. My phone rang again immediately, Jennifer's number this time. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mark's number, voicemail. Then Emma again, Tyler. Even a call from a number I didn't recognize. Probably a neighbor they'd begged to try reaching me. I turned my phone off. The ambulance would get there. Eventually. 30 minutes wasn't ideal, but people survived worse response times. Jennifer would probably be fine, probably. And if she wasn't, if the worst happened, then maybe next time, if there was a next time, they'd think twice before flushing someone's medication down the toilet, before dismissing pain they couldn't see, before teaching their children that cruelty without consequences is acceptable. I took 2 over-the-counter pain relievers, knowing they'd barely touch my symptoms. Put my phone on the charger. Set my alarm for my actual shift in the morning. Because tomorrow, I'd go back to work. I'd respond to strangers' emergencies. I'd save lives for people who'd never mocked my illness, never questioned my integrity, never celebrated destroying my medical care. I helped people who deserved it. The next morning, my phone showed 47 missed calls and 32 text messages. I ignored them all, got dressed in my uniform, and drove to the station. My partner Mike was already checking the ambulance. Hey Lisa, quiet night for you. Very quiet. Lucky. We had a crazy call around midnight. Woman with severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, middle-class neighborhood. 30-minute response time because of that highway pileup. Family was hysterical. My hands stilled on the supply cabinet. Did she make it? Barely. Another 5 minutes and we'd have been doing a body bag instead of a transport. Family kept screaming that someone who could help lived nearby but refused to come. Weird situation. Yeah, I said quietly, weird. Jennifer survived. The hospital kept her for observation, pumped her full of epinephrine and steroids, monitored her breathing. She'd live. She'd recover. She'd remember. 3 days later, a package arrived at my apartment. Inside were 3 bottles of medication, brand new prescriptions in my name, a note written in Emma's careful handwriting. We called your doctor, told her what we did. She was really mad at us. We're sorry. No note from Jennifer, no apology from Mark or Tyler, just the medication and the weight of understanding that actions have consequences. I never went back to their house, never responded to the texts, the calls, the eventual letter Jennifer sent explaining that her allergic reaction was serious, that she'd almost died, that family should be there for family. I agreed completely. Family should be there for family. They should recognize real pain. They should protect each other's medical needs. They should teach their children compassion instead of cruelty. They should remember that the person they dismiss today might be the person they need tomorrow. And sometimes, just sometimes, that person has the right to say no, because pain recognizes pain. And eventually, everyone learns what it feels like. The cake sat in the center of my dining table, 3 layers of chocolate with cream cheese frosting. I picked it up that morning, $72 for something I'd been looking forward to sharing with my family. My sister Valerie arrived 20 minutes late with her 10-year-old son, Brandon. No apology, just a distracted wave as she checked her phone. "Happy birthday," she said without looking up. "Brandon, give Aunt Melissa her card." Brandon handed me an envelope already focused on the gaming console in my living room. "Can I play?" "After cake," I said. He rolled his eyes and flopped onto my couch. My parents arrived next, then my brother Kevin with his wife. By 4 o'clock, we were gathered in my dining room, the cake taking center stage. "Okay, presents first or cake first?" Valerie asked. "Let's do presents," my mother suggested. I opened cards and gift certificates while Brandon sat kicking his chair legs, clearly bored. "Can we do cake now?" he asked loudly, interrupting my thank you to Kevin. "Yes, honey, cake time," Valerie said. I started placing candles while my mother found matches. Brandon stood on his chair, leaning over the table. "Sit down, Brandon," I said gently. "I want a corner piece. Those have more frosting." "We'll make sure you get one," Valerie assured him, not bothering to address the fact that he was still standing on my chair. My mother lit the candles and everyone started singing. I was smiling, about to blow them out, when Brandon suddenly groaned loudly. "This is so boring. Why do we have to do this?" "Brandon," my father said sharply, "that's rude." "But it is boring. It's not even my party. Why do I have to be here?" Valerie laughed nervously. "He's just tired. We had soccer practice this morning. Brandon, honey, just give Aunt Melissa 2 more minutes." I blew out the candles while Brandon made exaggerated sighing sounds. My mother started to remove the candles from the cake, setting them on a napkin. I picked up the cake knife to make the first cut. "I want my piece now," Brandon announced, reaching across the table. "Wait just a second," I said. "Let me cut." "You're taking too long." He lunged forward, and his hand caught the edge of the cake stand. The entire cake tipped, sliding off the stand and landing frosting side down on my dining table with a wet splat. Frosting splattered across the tablecloth, onto the floor, and across the front of my dress. The beautiful cake I'd spent $72 on was now a destroyed mess of chocolate crumbs and smeared frosting. Everyone froze. Brandon stared at the wreckage and shrugged. "Oops. Brandon." My mother gasped. I stood there, frosting dripping from the edge of my table, watching chocolate smear across my white tablecloth. My hands were shaking, but I kept them at my sides. "He didn't mean to," Valerie said quickly. "He's just tired." "It was an accident, right, Brandon?" "I guess," he muttered, already backing away from the table. "Can I go play video games now?" I carefully set down the cake knife. My brother Kevin started to say something, but I held up my hand. "I need to change my dress," I said quietly. "Excuse me." I walked to my bedroom, closed the door, and changed out of my frosting-stained dress. I picked up my purse, walked back through the dining room, and headed for my front door. "Melissa, where are you going?" my mother asked. "Out." "But you can't leave your own birthday party." Brandon was right. This is boring. I closed the door and drove to a coffee shop across town, where I sat with a latte and lemon cake for 2 hours. When I got home around 7, everyone was gone. The dining room was cleaned up, but chocolate stains remained on my tablecloth. Saturday, I processed what happened, not just the cake, but the pattern. Brandon's behavior had escalated for years, and Valerie never corrected him. Every gathering involved disruptions, tantrums, and demands for attention, and every time, Valerie made excuses. I'd been supporting that behavior in ways she didn't know about. Sunday, I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out a folder labeled Brandon Camp. Inside were 5 years of registration confirmations and payment receipts for Pinewood Athletic Academy. Brandon had attended their elite soccer camp every summer since age 5, 6 weeks of professional coaching, tournament play, and college scouts. The camp cost $4,200 per session. I paid for all of it. Valerie thought Brandon had been awarded a scholarship based on his soccer skills. I'd let her believe that because I knew she couldn't afford it on her salary as a dental hygienist. Brandon's father wasn't in the picture, and Valerie struggled with rent and car payments. When Brandon showed interest in soccer at age 5, I quietly contacted the camp, set up an anonymous sponsorship, and let Valerie think her son was just that talented. $21,000 over 5 years. Brandon loved that camp. He'd spent the past 3 months talking about it nonstop, excited about this summer's session starting in June. He'd be in the advanced 11 to 12 age group this year, the level where college scouts from Division I schools showed up to watch. Monday morning at 8, I called the camp's administrative office. Pinewood Athletic Academy, this is Jennifer speaking. Hey Jennifer, this is Melissa Torres. I need to discuss a registration for the upcoming summer session. Of course. What's the camper's name? Brandon Mitchell. He's registered for the June session. I heard typing. Yes, I have him here. He's in our advanced soccer program, fully paid. Is there a problem? I need to cancel his registration. Silence. Then, cancel? Miss Torres, you're listed as his sponsor. Are you aware that we're only 4 weeks from the start of the session? Our cancellation policy states that. I understand. I'm not requesting a refund. I just need the registration canceled. More typing. May I ask the reason? If there's an issue with housing or scheduling, we might be able to accommodate. It's a personal decision. The registration needs to be canceled effective immediately. I see. I'll need to process this and send confirmation to the parent or guardian on file. That's listed as Valerie Mitchell. That's correct. Miss Torres, I should mention that this spot is highly sought after. Once I cancel, it will be offered to someone on our wait list. If you change your mind, we likely won't have availability to re-register Brandon. I understand. Please proceed with the cancellation. I'll process this today. Ms. Mitchell should receive a call from our office by this afternoon. I thanked her and hung up. Then I went to work, attended meetings, reviewed budgets, and answered emails like it was any other Monday. My phone rang at 2:30. Valerie's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hello. What did you do? Her voice was high-pitched, panicked. I just got a call from Brandon's camp. They said his registration is canceled. They said his sponsor withdrew him. What sponsor? Melissa, what is happening? Exactly what they said. I canceled Brandon's registration. Wait, what? You're his sponsor? What does that even mean? It means I've been paying for his camp every summer for the past 5 years. $4,200 per year. The scholarship you thought he had doesn't exist. I created it. Silence. I could hear her breathing, sharp and fast. You've been paying? Her voice cracked. $21,000? Melissa, why would you do that without telling me? Because I wanted to give Brandon opportunities you couldn't afford. I wanted to support him. Then why are you canceling now? He's been talking about this camp for months. This is the year scouts will be watching. You can't just. I can actually. It's my money and I'm choosing not to spend it on someone who destroyed my birthday cake and didn't apologize. Someone whose mother made excuses for him instead of teaching him basic respect. This is about Saturday? Valerie's panic was shifting to anger. You're punishing a 10-year-old because of an accident. It wasn't an accident. He lunged for the cake after being told to wait, and even if it had been an accident, he showed no remorse. He shrugged and asked to play video games. He's 10, he doesn't understand. He understands perfectly. He understands that his mother will excuse any behavior, that there are never consequences, and that other people's feelings don't matter as long as he gets what he wants. Saturday was just the most recent example. So you're taking away his entire summer, his dream of playing college soccer, because of cake. I'm not taking away anything. I'm simply choosing not to fund it anymore. You're his mother. If the camp is important, you'll find a way to pay for it. I can't afford $4,000. You know I can't. My rent is $2,000 a month. I have car payments. Brandon needs school clothes. Then Brandon will have a different summer. He can join the local rec league. That's what most kids do. The local rec league. Valerie's voice rose. Melissa, he's been training at Pinewood for 5 years. That's where he's made friends, where he's developed his skills. You're going to rip that away from him because your feelings got hurt. My feelings aren't hurt, Valerie. My boundaries have been clarified. I've spent 5 years and $21,000 supporting Brandon, and in return, I've watched you raise him to be entitled and disrespectful. Saturday showed me exactly what my investment has created. This is cruel. You're being cruel to a child. What's cruel is never teaching your child that actions have consequences. What's cruel is letting him think the world revolves around him. I'm not being cruel. I'm setting a boundary that should have been set years ago. You can't do this. You're his aunt. Family doesn't abandon family over stupid mistakes. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm stopping a pattern of enabling bad behavior. The camp registration is canceled. That decision is final. Melissa, please. I'm begging you. He'll be devastated. Let me talk to him. Let him apologize. This isn't about an apology. This is about years of watching you excuse behavior that keeps getting worse. Brandon needs to learn that his actions affect other people. You need to learn that you can't rely on others to fix problems you're unwilling to address. Valerie was crying now. What am I supposed to tell him? He's been counting down the days. Tell him the truth. Tell him that his scholarship was never a scholarship, that his aunt paid for camp every year, and that his behavior on Saturday had consequences. Use it as a teaching moment. I hate you right now. That's your choice. But the registration stays canceled. I hung up before she could respond. The rest of the week, my phone was silent. No calls from Valerie, no texts from my mother. I assumed they were all discussing how unreasonable I was being, how harsh, how unforgiving. Friday evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Valerie and Brandon standing on my porch. Brandon's eyes were red, like he'd been crying recently. "Can we come in?" Valerie asked. I stepped aside. We sat in my living room, the same room where Brandon had played video games after destroying my birthday cake. He sat between Valerie and me, hands folded in his lap, looking at the floor. "Brandon has something to say," Valerie prompted. He took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry I ruined your cake. Mom told me you were paying for my camp, and I didn't know. I feel really bad that I was mean to you." "Okay," I said. Valerie leaned forward. "Melissa, I've spent this week really thinking about what you said. You were right. I make excuses for him constantly. I let things slide because I'm tired or stressed or because correcting him feels like one more battle I don't have energy for. But you're right. He's been getting worse, not better." "Okay," I repeated. "I can't afford the camp. I've looked at every option, and there's no way. But I'm enrolling him in the rec league, and I've signed him up with a behavior counselor. We had our first session yesterday." Brandon glanced up at me. "Mom says I have to earn things now. Like actually earn them by being respectful and not bratty." "That sounds like a good plan," I said. Valerie's eyes filled with tears. "Is there any way you'd reconsider? If Brandon really works on his behavior, if I actually parent him properly, would you sponsor him again next summer?" I looked at Brandon, this 10-year-old kid who'd been given everything without learning gratitude, who'd been excused from every consequence. Then I looked at Valerie, who had enabled every bit of it while I silently funded opportunities she couldn't provide. "No," I said quietly. "I won't be sponsoring camp anymore. Not next summer, not ever." Valerie nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "I understand." But I continued, if Brandon completes this summer in the rec league with good behavior, if he maintains that behavior through the school year, and if he shows genuine understanding of why his actions have consequences, I'll contribute $1,000 toward next year's camp. Not pay for it entirely, but help. The rest is up to you to figure out." Brandon looked up, hope flickering across his face. "Really?" "Really. But it's not a promise, it's a possibility. You have to actually change, not just apologize and go back to the same behavior." "I will," he said quickly. "I'll be good, I promise." "We'll see," I said. "Change takes time." After they left, I sat in my quiet living room, thinking about boundaries and consequences, about the difference between supporting someone and enabling them. My birthday cake was gone, my $72 wasted, but something more important had been saved. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the natural consequences of their choices. Sometimes love means saying no, even when it hurts. Brandon would have a different summer than he planned, maybe a better one, where he learned that respect and gratitude matter more than talent and entitlement. Maybe not. But either way, it wouldn't be my responsibility to fund lessons his mother should have taught him years ago. I finally stopped enabling, and that was worth more than any camp registration. The wire transfers went out like clockwork every semester, 3 separate payments to 3 different universities, totaling $173,000 annually. Northwestern for Emma, the pre-med student, Boston University for Marcus, studying engineering, Up Berkeley for Sophie, pursuing environmental science. My sister Laura's children, all attending expensive schools despite Laura's modest income as a middle school teacher. Laura thought their late grandmother had established education trusts. I never corrected that assumption. It was simpler than explaining why her younger sister now ran a digital marketing agency profitable enough to casually spend over $500,000 on someone else's children's education. I've been funding their tuitions for 3 years. Emma was entering her senior year, Marcus his junior, Sophie her sophomore. The payments had become routine, automated reminders I barely noticed anymore. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I sat in my home office reviewing the spring semester payment schedule. Emma's final year would cost $68,000. Marcus needed $57,000. Sophie's tuition had increased to $48,000. $173,000 due in 6 weeks. My phone buzzed with a text from Laura. Kids are so excited for Thanksgiving. Emma's bringing her boyfriend. Fair warning, they're all very impressed with themselves this year. College success has gone to their heads a bit. I stared at that message longer than necessary. Impressed with themselves. As if their success had nothing to do with the anonymous benefactor ensuring they graduated debt-free while their peers drowned in loans. I didn't confirm the payment schedule. Something made me hesitate. Thanksgiving arrived cold and crisp. Laura had decorated with characteristic excess. Aunt Claire. Sophie offered a brief hug before turning back to her phone. Sorry, huge group project crisis. Emma appeared with a tall young man. Aunt Claire, this is Brandon. Brandon, this is my aunt. The family entrepreneur, Brandon said. Emma mentioned you do some kind of internet marketing. Some kind of, I agreed. Marcus was last to acknowledge me, taking a phone call in the hallway. Yeah, the Tesla internship is confirmed for summer. The afternoon unfolded with the usual chaos. The kids clustered together, their conversation peppered with casual references to their impressive lives. Emma's MCAT scores, Marcus's engineering competition wins, Sophie's research publication. Laura glowed with maternal pride. My father nodded approvingly. I helped in the kitchen, arranged side dishes, refilled drinks. After dinner, I was in the dining room clearing plates when their voices drifted from the living room. They congregated there, the kids and Laura, their conversation loud enough to carry. Mom, why do we even invite her anymore? Emma's voice, sharp with casual cruelty. She just sits there being awkward. Emma, that's not fair. But Laura was laughing. She's family. She's just the family charity case. Marcus declared, and I could hear the others joining in the laughter. Seriously, what does she even do? Some vague internet job? Meanwhile, we're all at top universities actually accomplishing things. Marcus, stop. Laura's protest was half-hearted. Your aunt has had a difficult path. Not everyone finds success early like you three have. A difficult path? Sophie scoffed. She's almost 40 and still acts like she's figuring things out. It's embarrassing when my friends ask about my family. What do I say? My aunt does internet stuff and lives alone with 2 cats. 1 cat, I murmured to myself, still holding the stack of plates. Brandon's voice tried to be diplomatic. Everyone's journey is different. Brandon, you're sweet, but come on, Emma said again. She's the family joke. The cautionary tale. Study hard or you'll end up like Aunt Claire. The laughter that followed was genuine, unforced. My sister's children, these college students I'd been supporting for years, casually shredding my life while I stood 15 feet away holding their dirty dishes. I set the plates down carefully and pulled out my phone. My banking app opened smoothly, muscle memory from years of managing payments. I navigated to the university payment portal I've been using so long it stayed permanently logged in. 3 scheduled payments, 3 cancellation buttons. My thumbs moved steadily. Northwestern, canceled. Boston University, canceled. Berkeley, canceled. Then I opened my email and drafted 3 separate messages to 3 separate bursar offices. Please cancel all automatic payment arrangements for the following student. I will no longer be funding their tuition effective immediately. Fall semester has been paid in full, but no future payments will be processed from my accounts. Please direct all billing inquiries to their parent, Laura Mitchell. I sent all 3 before I could reconsider. Then I walked back into the living room, smiling pleasantly. Anyone want coffee? They looked up, startled. Sophie's face flushed slightly, but none seemed genuinely concerned. I was just the family joke. I stayed another hour, helped clean up, hugged everyone goodbye. Emma's embrace was perfunctory. Marcus barely looked up. Sophie managed a distracted, "See you next time." Laura walked me to my car. Thanks for coming. The kids can be a bit much sometimes. They're great, I said. You've raised impressive children. I got lucky with that education fund Mom left. She laughed. Sometimes I feel guilty you didn't get the same support. I didn't correct her, just hugged her goodbye and drove home. The semester break passed quietly. I worked through the holidays and didn't think about university payments until mid-January when Laura called. Claire, something strange is happening. She sounded stressed. All 3 kids got letters saying spring tuition hasn't been paid and enrollment is being canceled. I was reviewing a campaign proposal. That sounds serious. Mom's trust was supposed to handle everything automatically. Laura, Mom didn't have an education trust. She had a retirement account we split evenly, $12,000 each for funeral expenses, remember? Long silence. Then who's been paying for Northwestern, Boo, and Berkeley? That's almost $200,000 per year. I have no idea. Maybe call their financial aid offices. Claire, all 3 are about to be kicked out. Emma graduates in 4 months. Sounds like a serious situation. Can you help? Maybe a loan just for this semester? $173,000 loan to someone whose children had called me the family joke. Laura, I don't have that kind of money lying around. I do internet marketing, remember? Not exactly fortune-building work. Claire, please. Have you talked to Dad? He's on a fixed income. I'm sure you'll figure something out. I ended the call. The messages started within hours. Laura, Emma, Marcus, Sophie. I responded to none of them. 4 days later, my father showed up at my office unannounced, walking past my assistant and into my meeting room, where I was presenting to a pharmaceutical company's marketing director. Claire, we need to talk, now. I excused myself and led him to my office, where the walls displayed industry awards and client testimonials. He looked around, surprised. I didn't realize your office was so established. Most people don't ask. I sat behind my desk. What's the emergency? Laura's at Northwestern. The university has records showing you've been paying all 3 kids' tuitions for 3 years. Over $500,000 total. That's correct. Why, without telling anyone? Because they needed it, and I could afford it. Laura makes $48,000 a year. There was no magical fund. And now you've stopped. Correct. This is about Thanksgiving. I left after Emma called me the family joke. Marcus said I was embarrassing, and Sophie explained I'm the cautionary tale. Laura laughed through it. My father's face shifted. They said that while I was clearing their dishes. Claire, they're young. They say stupid things. They're 21, 20, and 19, old enough to understand that mocking someone's life choices is cruel, especially when that person has spent over $500,000 funding their educations. So you're punishing them for being thoughtless kids. I'm declining to continue financing people who have contempt for me. That seems pretty reasonable. Emma graduates in May. You'd really deny her that after funding 3.5 years? Dad, I funded 3 students through multiple years of expensive private universities while they and their mother believed I was a failure barely scraping by with internet work. I never asked for gratitude. But I also don't have to accept being called the family joke by people whose entire academic careers I've been bankrolling. He sat heavily in one of my client chairs. What do you want? An apology? I don't want anything. I just want to stop being the invisible solution to everyone's problems while simultaneously being dismissed as the family disappointment. They didn't know you were paying. They didn't ask. Laura spent 3 years not questioning where nearly $600,000 was coming from. She just assumed some magical fund covered everything because it was easier than acknowledging I might be successful. So now what? 3 kids drop out of college because they hurt your feelings. No. 3 kids figure out student loans, financial aid, or part-time work like millions of other students do. Or Laura figures out how to pay, which she should have been planning for anyway, instead of coasting on assumed trust funds. Claire. Dad, did you know I've been running a digital marketing agency for 8 years? That I have 43 employees and clients in 6 countries? That my revenue last year was $12 million? He stared at me. Of course you didn't, because nobody ever asked what I actually do. I'm just Claire, the family mess who does some vague internet stuff and lives alone with cats. It was easier to keep believing that than to actually look at my life. I had no idea. Nobody did, and that was fine until Laura's kids decided to make me the punchline at Thanksgiving dinner. My phone buzzed. Laura's name appeared on the screen. I declined the call. Emma's crying, Dad said quietly. She realizes what she lost. They all do now. Good. Understanding consequences is part of becoming an adult. This will destroy their academic careers. No, it won't. It'll make them work harder. Maybe they'll appreciate their education more when they're actually paying for it. He stood slowly. You've changed, Claire. I grew up, Dad. Built something real. It just happened quietly while everyone was looking elsewhere. After he left, I sat alone in my office watching the sun set over the city. My phone continued buzzing with ignored calls and messages. Laura, Emma, Marcus, even Sophie, with her carefully composed apologies. That evening, Emma sent a voice message. I almost deleted it unheard, but curiosity won. Aunt Claire. Her voice was thick with tears. Mom finally told me the truth. About everything. The tuition, the payments, all of it. I don't even know what to say except I'm so sorry. I was cruel and dismissive, and I said horrible things about someone who's been supporting my entire education. I understand if you never forgive me, but I needed you to know that I realized what I did. What we all did. I listened to similar messages from Marcus and Sophie over the next hour, all genuinely remorseful, all shocked by the revelation of my actual financial support. But remorse doesn't erase words already spoken. Sorry doesn't refund $500,000 spent on people who called you a charity case. 2 weeks later, Laura appeared at my office. My assistant had strict instructions this time, but Laura looked so defeated I agreed to see her. They're withdrawing, she said without preamble. All 3 of them. Emma found a state school that will accept her credits and let her finish her degree. Marcus is transferring to the state engineering program. Sophie's taking a semester off to work and save money. Sounds like they're being resourceful. Claire, please. I know what they said was unforgivable. I know I should have been more aware, should have questioned where the money was coming from, but they're good kids who made a terrible mistake. They're adults who revealed what they actually think of me. That's not a mistake. That's honesty. What can I do? What would make this right? I looked at my older sister, always so polished, always so together, now completely falling apart. Part of me wanted to fix everything, to wire the money and restore their perfect lives. But the rest of me remembered standing in that dining room, holding plates, listening to people I'd sacrificed for treat me like garbage. Tell them the truth, I finally said. Tell them exactly how much I paid and for how long. Tell them I heard every word they said at Thanksgiving. Tell them that actions have consequences, and this is what happens when you mock someone's generosity. They know all that now. Then there's nothing more to discuss. She left crying. 3 months later, I ran into Emma at a coffee shop near my office. She was in scrubs, apparently working as a hospital volunteer between classes at her new state university. Aunt Claire. She approached hesitantly. Can we talk for just a minute? I gestured to the empty chair at my table. I start at state in the fall, she said. The pre-med program there is actually really good. Different vibe than Northwestern, but I'm adjusting. Good. I got a job. 2 jobs, actually. This hospital thing. And I tutor organic chemistry on weekends. I'm covering my own tuition through a combination of work and small loans. Nothing like what you were paying, but it's mine. That's admirable. I wanted you to know that I get it now. What you did for us. What we threw away. I'm not asking you to forgive me or to help us again. I just wanted you to know that working for my education has made me appreciate it more than I ever did before. I studied her face, seeing exhaustion, but also something that looked like genuine growth. Emma, I never wanted you to fail. Any of you. I wanted you to succeed without debt. But I also needed you to see me as a real person, not just the family joke. I see you now, she said quietly. And I'm so sorry it took losing everything to open my eyes. She left, and I sat alone with my coffee, thinking about family, pride, and the price of being invisible. My phone buzzed with a payment reminder, not for tuition this time, just my regular bills, my regular life. And I realized something, it felt absolutely right. I was home by 9:30 most nights. Not because I had nowhere else to be, but because I genuinely enjoyed my evening routine. Dinner at 7, a book until 9, then bed by 10. Weekends followed similar patterns. I worked as a financial analyst, left the office at 5:15 daily, and had maintained this schedule for 6 years. My sister Diane found this existence baffling. She was spontaneous, always posting pictures from concerts or weekend trips. Her 3 kids, ranging from 17 to 22, had inherited her energy. They were constantly busy, their social calendars packed with activities I couldn't begin to track. The contrast became a running joke at family gatherings. Is Beth coming? My niece Kayla would ask, already knowing the answer. Or does she have another exciting night of Netflix planned? Leave your aunt alone, Diane would say, though she'd be smiling. Not everyone needs constant simulation. I never took offense. My life worked for me. I had savings, no debt, a well-maintained apartment, and genuine contentment. Their chaos seemed exhausting. The Friday before Thanksgiving, Diane hosted dinner. All three kids were there. Kayla, 22, and working in marketing, Tyler, 19 and home from college, and Mason, 17, a high school senior. I arrived at 6:30 with a store-bought pie. Beth, Diane hugged me, already holding a glass of wine. Perfect timing. Kids are in the living room. The living room was loud. Kayla was showing Tyler something on her phone. Mason was texting rapidly. Hey, Aunt Beth, Kayla said without looking up. Let me guess, you came straight from home? I did. What were you doing before this? Let me guess, organizing your spice cabinet alphabetically? Tyler snorted. She probably has a spreadsheet for her spreadsheets. Actually, I was reading, I said mildly. Just finished a book on economic theory. Riveting, Mason muttered, his eyes still on his phone, truly living on the edge. Dinner was pleasant enough, though conversation constantly circled back to their adventures. Kayla's upcoming Miami trip, Tyler's fraternity formal, Mason's plans for a concert. What about you, Beth? Diane asked. Any exciting plans? I'm refinancing my mortgage. Rates dropped, so I'm saving about $400 a month. Silence, then Tyler started laughing. That's the most Aunt Beth thing I've ever heard. Aunt has no life, she's always home. Kayla joined in. God, I'd die if my weekends involved mortgage paperwork. It's actually quite satisfying, I said. That $400 monthly adds up to nearly $5,000 annually. Retirement planning, Mason said dramatically. You're 41. Do you ever just live in the moment? I live plenty. I just prefer predictability. You prefer boring, Tyler corrected, grinning. Diane finally intervened. Okay, enough. Beth's responsible, and there's value in that. But the damage was done. The rest of dinner featured subtle digs about my predictable existence. I smiled through it and left by 8:30. At home, I changed into comfortable clothes, made tea, and settled in with a book. By 10:15, I was in bed. My phone sat on the nightstand, charging, ringer on, just in case. The call came at 3:07 in the morning. I woke instantly, the way people do when their phone rings at an hour reserved for emergencies. Kayla's name lit up my screen. Hello. My voice was surprisingly clear for someone who'd been deeply asleep seconds earlier. Aunt Beth. Kayla's voice was small, frightened, nothing like the confident young woman who'd been mocking my life 8 hours earlier. I'm so sorry to call, but I need help. I was already sitting up, turning on the lamp. What's wrong? I'm stranded. My car died, and I'm on Route 47, and I don't know what to do. I tried calling Mom, but she's not answering, and I'm kind of freaking out. Route 47, rural highway, minimal lighting. Not much traffic this time of night. Are you safe? Is the car completely off the road? Yeah, I pulled onto the shoulder, but it's really dark, and there's no one around, and my phone's at 30%. Okay. I was already out of bed, pulling on jeans. First, lock your doors. Keep the hazards on. I'm coming to get you, but I'm about 40 minutes away. Can you text me your exact location? You're coming? She sounded stunned, then relieved. Oh my God, thank you. Stay in the car, doors locked, until you see my blue Honda. I'll flash my lights. Okay, thank you so much. I grabbed essentials because having basics mattered. My car was in its assigned spot, exactly where it always was. I plugged in my phone, entered Kayla's location, and started driving. Route 47 at 3:30 in the morning was exactly as desolate as I'd imagined. Dark fields on either side. Occasional farmhouses with no lights on. I found Kayla's silver sedan on the shoulder, hazards blinking weakly. I pulled up behind her, flashed my lights twice, and watched as she scrambled out of her car. She was in a short dress and heels, no jacket, clearly dressed for wherever she'd been before the breakdown. She looked cold, scared, and very young. Get in, I said, unlocking the passenger door. She climbed in gratefully, and I immediately turned up the heat. I'm so sorry, she started, but I held up a hand. First things first, are you hurt? Did anything happen before the car died? No, it just stopped. All the lights on the dashboard lit up, and then it was dead. Okay, have you been drinking? She hesitated, then nodded. I was at a party, but I wasn't drunk, I swear. I had 2 drinks over, like 4 hours. I felt completely fine to drive. Where was the party? Trenton. I was heading home. Trenton was an hour from her house. She'd made it about halfway before the breakdown. Why didn't your friends drive you home? Another pause. I kind of left early. There was drama, and I just wanted to go. So she left alone, at 3 in the morning, from a party an hour away. And now her car was dead on a rural highway. I thought about all the things that could have gone wrong beyond a mechanical failure. Your mom's not answering. She's in Atlantic City with her boyfriend. They went for the weekend. I tried calling like 6 times. Atlantic City. Casinos, shows. Probably a hotel room where Diane had silenced her phone to enjoy her spontaneous weekend getaway. Tyler or Mason couldn't help. Tyler's at school. Mason's at a friend's house, and he doesn't have his license yet anyway. So I've been her only option. The boring aunt who was always home, predictably available, reliably present. All right, we'll deal with the car in the morning. I'm taking you to my place tonight. Tomorrow we'll call a tow truck and figure out what's wrong with your vehicle. My place? She looked surprised. It's almost 4 in the morning. I'm not driving you all the way to your house just to turn around and drive 40 minutes back to mine. You can sleep on my couch. Oh, okay, thank you. We drove in silence for a while. Kayla was shivering despite the heat, the adrenaline crash hitting her. I handed her a water bottle and a granola bar. Eat something, you'll feel better. She obeyed quietly, nibbling the bar like a child. Aunt Beth? Her voice was small again. I'm really sorry about what we said at dinner, about your life being boring and everything. We'll talk about it later. Right now, just rest. Back at my apartment, I gave her sweatpants and a t-shirt, showed her where the bathroom was, and set her up on the couch with blankets and pillows. She was asleep within minutes, exhausted from fear and relief. I went back to my room but didn't sleep. Instead, I sat up thinking about that moment when my phone rang, when Kayla needed help and I was the one she could count on. Not because I was exciting or spontaneous or fun, but because I was exactly what they'd mocked me for being: predictable, available, boring. At 7 in the morning, my phone buzzed with multiple texts from Diane. She finally checked her phone. Kayla just texted me. She said her car broke down and you drove out to get her at 3 a.m.? Are you serious? Thank you so much. Why didn't you call me first? I would have handled it. Is she okay? I'm heading back now. I replied simply. She's fine, sleeping on my couch. She tried calling you 6 times. Your phone was off. 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before Diane's next message. I feel terrible. I didn't think to check my phone. Thank God she had you. I didn't respond to that. Kayla woke around 9, looking embarrassed and grateful in equal measure. I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing fancy. We ate quietly at my small kitchen table. I called the tow truck. I said, they'll take your car to the mechanic near your house. I'll drive you home after breakfast. You don't have to do that. I know. She pushed her eggs around her plate. Last night was scary. I kept thinking about all the things that could have happened if you hadn't come, if you hadn't answered. But I did answer. Because you were home, because you always are. She looked up at me. I made fun of you for that. You did. I'm sorry, really sorry. Not just because you rescued me, but because I was mean about something that's actually really great. You have your life together. You're responsible and reliable. And I acted like that was something to laugh at. Why did you? I asked genuinely. Why does my lifestyle bother you? She thought about it. I think because it makes me feel bad about mine. Mom's always talking about living in the moment and being spontaneous, and that's how we all try to be. But then I see you, and you're so calm and organized, and you have savings and a nice apartment, and you never seem stressed. And maybe I'm jealous, because I'm always stressed, always worried about money or plans or whether I'm doing enough exciting things. Exciting doesn't mean fulfilling, I said quietly. I chose this life deliberately. After years of chaos, I decided I wanted peace. Some people need adventure. I need stability. I'm starting to see the value in that. I drove her home around 10:30. Diane's car was in the driveway, and she came rushing out before we even parked. Kayla, are you okay? She hugged her daughter tightly, then turned to me. Beth, I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. It's fine. It's not fine. You drove out in the middle of the night because I was unreachable. She looked genuinely distraught. I'm her mother. I should have been available. You were having a weekend away. That's allowed. But my phone should have been on. What if something worse had happened? I didn't answer that because we were both thinking it. The thing is, Diane continued, you were there, like you always are, and have made jokes about your boring life, but the truth is, you're the most reliable person in this family. When there's an actual emergency, you're the one everyone can count on. Mason and Tyler had appeared on the porch, watching this exchange. Tyler walked over, hands in his pockets. Kayla told us what happened. That's really cool of you, Aunt Beth, coming to get her like that. Anyone would have done it. But you did do it, Mason added. And you were able to because of all the stuff we make fun of you for, being home, having your phone on, being the responsible one. I prefer to think of it as having my priorities straight, I said lightly. Over the next few weeks, something shifted in how my sister's family treated me. The jokes about my boring life didn't stop entirely, but they lost their edge. Kayla texted me occasionally, asking for advice about budgeting and saving. Tyler called once to ask how I'd chosen my retirement accounts. Even Mason seemed more thoughtful when family conversations turned to lifestyle choices. Diane invited me to lunch, just the two of us, at a quiet restaurant. I've been thinking about that night, she said over salads. About how I've set up my life to be spontaneous and fun, but that meant I wasn't available when Kayla actually needed me. You can't be available every second. No, but I can stop treating responsibility like it's boring. I've been so focused on not being the uptight parent that I forgot there's value in being the reliable one. She paused. You've had that figured out for years and I dismissed it. Different life stages, different priorities. Maybe, but I'm starting to think your way isn't as boring as I made it out to be. It's actually kind of impressive. The real change came at the whole family gathered at my father's house, and when conversation turned to New Year's plans, Kayla mentioned she was staying home. Really? Diane looked surprised. I thought you and your friends were doing that party in Philadelphia. I decided to skip it. Going to start the year focused on my goals instead of being hungover at some stranger's house. Kayla glanced at me. Figured I'd take a page from Aunt Beth's book. The boring book? Tyler asked, but he was smiling. The smart book, Kayla corrected. The one where you make choices based on what you actually want, not what looks good on Instagram. I didn't say anything, just sipped my coffee and enjoyed the moment. That night, as I drove home to my quiet apartment with my predictable routine waiting for me, I thought about that 3 a.m. phone call, about being the person someone calls when they're scared and stranded and need help, about how reliability isn't exciting, but it matters. Maybe more than excitement does. My phone rang as I pulled into my parking spot. Kayla's name lit up the screen. Hey, I answered. Hey, Aunt Beth. I just wanted to say thanks again for everything, but especially for showing me that boring isn't actually boring, it's just sustainable. I'm glad you see it that way now. Can I ask you something? How did you figure out what kind of life you wanted? I thought about it, sitting in my car in my assigned spot under the familiar streetlight. I stopped trying to live anyone else's version of interesting and started building what made me feel peaceful. Turns out peace looks pretty boring from the outside. But it feels good on the inside. It feels exactly right. After we hung up, I went upstairs to my apartment, where everything was exactly where I'd left it. Predictable, organized, quiet. I made tea, picked up my book, and settled into my evening routine. Boring, maybe, but when the phone rang at 3 in the morning, I'd been ready. And that made all the difference. The cereal aisle at Target was crowded for a Saturday afternoon. Weekend shoppers filled the space, families with kids, college students stocking up, elderly couples moving slowly with their carts. I was reaching for a box of granola, comparing prices between brands, when I felt hands shove hard against my back. Not an accidental bump. A deliberate, forceful push that sent me stumbling forward into a shopping cart someone had left in the middle of the aisle. The metal edge caught my ribs. Pain exploded through my chest as I fell, my knee slamming into the tile floor with a crack that made nearby shoppers gasp, my palms scraping against the rough surface trying to break my fall. The impact knocked the wind out of me completely. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only register the white-hot pain radiating through my torso. Look at her fall, my nephew Derek's voice, loud and delighted. That's what you get. I looked up from the floor, vision blurry, to see my sister Vanessa standing 10 feet away with her 2 kids. Derek, 15, was laughing. His younger sister Maya, 12, had her phone out, recording. Stay on the floor like trash, Maya said, still filming. That's where you belong anyway. Several other shoppers had stopped, staring. An elderly woman moved toward me. Are you okay? Should I call someone? Vanessa finally moved, but not to help. She grabbed Maya's phone. Put that away. We're leaving. She looked down at me, still on the ground, blood seeping through my torn jeans from my scraped knee. Stop being dramatic, Andrea. You barely fell. Then she walked away, just turned and walked toward the checkout lanes with her kids trailing behind, leaving me bleeding on the floor surrounded by strangers. The elderly woman helped me up. A Target employee rushed over with a first aid kit. My hands were shaking as they cleaned the scrapes on my palms. My ribs screamed with every breath. My knee was already swelling. We need to file an incident report, the employee said, looking worried. Do you want us to call the police? We have cameras. We saw what happened. I thought about it. Pressing charges against my nephew. Creating a police record. The family drama that would follow. No, I said quietly, just the incident report for my records. The employee looked disappointed but nodded. She helped me fill out the paperwork, included witness statements from 3 customers who'd seen Derek push me, gave me copies of everything. I limped to my car, drove myself to urgent care. Bruised ribs, sprained knee, deep tissue bruising on my hip. The doctor recommended follow-up with an orthopedist if the knee didn't improve. Total bill, $4,200, which my insurance would cover after my deductible. I went home, iced everything, and tried not to think about my sister watching her son assault me and walking away. Monday morning, I returned to work at Meridian Health Insurance, where I'd been a senior claims adjuster for 6 years. My supervisor, Karen, took one look at me limping and raised her eyebrows. Rough weekend? Something like that. I didn't elaborate. I rarely talked about my family at work. It was easier that way. I'd worked my way up from entry-level claims processor to senior adjuster with decision authority on claims up to $200,000. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was important. I reviewed medical claims, determined coverage eligibility, approved or denied payments. People's financial lives often depended on my decisions. I was good at my job, fair but thorough. I followed policy to the letter, documented everything, never let personal feelings influence professional decisions. That's why, 2 weeks later, when a claim crossed my desk with Vanessa's name on it, I didn't flinch. I processed thousands of claims over the years. I knew how to separate personal feelings from professional responsibilities. Emergency appendectomy. Hospital admission, surgery, 2 days post-op recovery. Total charges, $47,862. The surgeon's fee alone was $12,000. Anesthesia, operating room time, pharmacy charges, recovery room monitoring, all itemized in neat rows on my screen. I read through the claim carefully, following my standard review process. Checked her policy details, coverage limits, deductibles, co-insurance percentages. Everything appeared in order at first glance. The procedure was medically necessary, performed at an in-network facility, coded correctly. I should approve it, apply her deductible and co-insurance, process the payment, and move on to the next claim in my queue. But then I noticed something. The date of service was 6 days after the Target incident, and her insurance card on file showed a policy effective date that was wrong. The system showed her coverage starting 3 weeks before the appendectomy, but her employer's records indicated she'd been added to the plan only 2 days before her emergency. That meant there was a coverage gap, a period where she wasn't actually insured when she needed the surgery. I pulled up the employer's HR records. Vanessa worked for a marketing firm that offered insurance with a 30-day waiting period for new enrollments. She'd enrolled on the 5th, meaning her coverage didn't start until the 5th of the next month. Her appendectomy happened on the 28th. No coverage. The claim should be denied. But I knew what that meant. $47,000. Out of pocket. For Vanessa, who'd been complaining about money for years, who drove a leased BMW she could barely afford, who bought her kids designer clothes while telling me I should try harder to be successful. I sat with the file for 10 minutes. Professional ethics said I should check with her employer, verify the enrollment dates, maybe see if there was a retroactive coverage exception, give her a chance. Personal ethics remembered my sister watching me bleed on the floor and walking away. I opened the enrollment records. The dates were clear. She had waited too long to enroll, missed the deadline, tried to add herself after finding out she needed surgery. Classic insurance fraud attempt, honestly, though probably not intentional. Just desperation and bad timing. I documented everything. Pulled the employer HR records, the enrollment forms, the policy waiting period language. Built an airtight file showing exactly why coverage didn't exist. Then I stamped the claim. Denied, no active coverage at time of service. The next claim was Derek's. Broken arm, emergency room visit, orthopedic surgery to set the bone with pins. $12,400. Same insurance policy. Same coverage gap. Denied. Maya's claim came through 3 days later. Wisdom teeth extraction, surgical removal of all 4 impacted teeth. $8,900. Denied. I processed each one according to policy, documented my reasoning, and moved them through the system. By the end of the week, Vanessa's family was facing $69,000 in medical debt. Karen stopped by my desk on Friday afternoon. "Hey, Andrea, I need you to handle a member complaint." Escalated to supervisor review. She handed me a file. Vanessa's name on top. Member claims her family's insurance claims were wrongly denied. Says there must be a mistake. She's demanding to speak with whoever processed them. Karen looked at me. "That was you, right?" "Yes." Claims were processed according to policy. No coverage existed at time of service due to enrollment timing. Member says she enrolled months ago. Member's employer records show she enrolled on June 5th. Policy has a 30-day waiting period. Her emergency surgery was June 28th. No coverage existed. I pulled up the documentation on my screen. Everything's here. Employer verification, policy language, enrollment forms with her signature. Karen reviewed the file, nodding slowly. "This is solid work. Good catch on the enrollment dates. A less thorough adjuster might have missed it. Just doing my job." Member is pretty upset. Left 3 voicemails demanding to talk to you personally. Should I have complaints handle it? I thought about Vanessa's voice on those messages. Probably angry. Probably demanding. Probably not used to being told no. "I'll handle it," I said. "If she calls again, transfer her to me." The call came Monday morning. "This is Andrea speaking. How can I help you?" "Andrea?" Vanessa's voice, sharp with disbelief. "What are you doing answering the phone at the insurance company?" "I work here. I'm a senior claims adjuster." Silence. Long, thick silence. "You work there?" "Yes, for 6 years." "You told Mom you worked in an office. You said you did paperwork." "I do paperwork. Medical claims paperwork. I process and adjudicate insurance claims." More silence. I could hear her breathing, putting pieces together. Did you process my claims?" "I process approximately 40 to 60 claims per day. If your claims came to my desk, then yes, I processed them." "They were denied. All of them." $69,000, Andrea. We can't afford that. There has to be a mistake." "There's no mistake. Your coverage didn't exist at the time of service. You enrolled after the policy waiting period cutoff." "That's impossible. I enrolled months ago." "Your employer's HR records show enrollment on June 5th with a policy effective date of July 5th. Your medical services occurred between June 28th and July 2nd. No coverage existed." "But I thought, they said." Her voice cracked slightly. "Andrea, I need this coverage. We need it. Derek's surgery alone was $12,000. I can't pay that. You should review your enrollment paperwork and contact your employer's benefits coordinator to discuss timing and options." "Options? What options?" "The bills are already here. The hospital is demanding payment." I kept my voice steady, professional. "You can request payment plans from your providers. Many hospitals offer financial assistance programs for patients without insurance coverage." "Andrea." Her tone changed, became the older sister voice she used when she wanted something. The voice that used to convince me to do her homework, cover for her with our parents, lend her money she never repaid. "Come on, you can fix this. You work there. You have access. Just approve the claims. Nobody will know." "I can't approve claims for coverage that doesn't exist. That would be insurance fraud. You're doing this because of what happened at Target, because Derek pushed you. You're getting revenge." "I'm doing this because it's my job to verify coverage and process claims according to policy. Every claim gets the same level of scrutiny regardless of who submitted it." "My kids pushed you. It was an accident. Kids being stupid. You're being petty and vindictive over an accident." The incident report from Target indicates it was witnessed by multiple customers and captured on store cameras. The report describes a deliberate assault, not an accident. "You kept the report?" "Of course I kept it. It's documentation of an injury that required medical treatment. So you are using it against us. You're denying our claims because you're mad. I'm denying your claims because you didn't have coverage when you received medical services. The Target incident is irrelevant to coverage determination. Then why did you mention it? You mentioned it first. I'm simply correcting your characterization of the event. I could hear her breathing getting faster, anger building. I want to talk to your supervisor. I'll transfer you to Karen Williams, claims supervisor. Please note that she's already reviewed these denials and confirmed they were processed correctly. Andrea, wait, please. We're family. Family doesn't walk away when her sister is bleeding on the floor. I said I was sorry about that. No, you didn't. You called me dramatic and left. I'm saying it now. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Now please, just help us. Help your nephew. He's 15. He can't have medical debt at 15. Derek is listed on your insurance policy. His claims will be denied for the same reason as yours. No active coverage. If you're concerned about his financial future, you should have enrolled in your employer's insurance plan during the proper enrollment period. You're really going to do this? You're really going to let us drown in debt? I'm going to process claims according to policy and documentation. What you do with that information is your decision. She was quiet for a long moment. You've changed. No, I haven't. You just never bothered to know who I was. I transferred her to Karen and went back to my queue. 43 claims waiting. Real people with real problems needing real solutions. That afternoon, my phone showed 17 missed calls from Vanessa. 8 text messages ranging from apologies to threats to desperate pleas. 3 voicemails from my mother demanding I explain why I was destroying Vanessa's life. I blocked their numbers and kept working. Karen stopped by again before she left for the day. The member filed a formal appeal. It'll go to the appeals committee next week. The denial will stand. Documentation is clear. I know. I'd already told her that. Karen studied me. She mentioned you're related. She's my sister. Does that create a conflict of interest for you? No. I processed her claims the same way I process every claim, according to policy with complete documentation. Karen nodded slowly. Good. Because she's threatening to escalate this to corporate, claim you have a personal vendetta. Let her. The file speaks for itself. 3 weeks later, the appeals committee upheld all 3 denials. Vanessa's family was officially responsible for $69,000 in medical debt. I heard through my mother that they'd set up payment plans with the hospital. 24 months at brutal interest rates. Vanessa had to sell her BMW and buy a used Honda. Derek was working part-time after school to help. Maya lost her iPhone. My mother called me cruel, said I should have helped, said family takes care of family. I didn't argue. Just asked her if she remembered who took me to urgent care after Target, who paid my medical bills, who checked on me to see if my ribs healed properly. She went quiet. That's what I thought, I said, and ended the call. 6 months later, I got promoted to claims manager. Bigger office, more authority, team of 12 adjusters reporting to me. I trained them all the same way. Process every claim fairly, follow policy exactly, document everything. Never let personal feelings cloud professional judgment. One of my adjusters asked me once why I was so strict about documentation. I thought about Derek's hands on my back, the tile floor, Vanessa walking away. Because falls have consequences, I said. And someone needs to make sure they're documented. She looked confused but nodded. I never explained. Some lessons you learn on grocery store floors. Some you learn behind claims processing desks. But they all teach the same thing. Actions have consequences, and eventually, everyone pays their bill.